Here's the bottom line for me on this. We need national. We don't need the government to set the federal government to set national standards, but we got to expect our children to reach a certain standard, and it ought to be uniform, okay? So my understanding is the governors got together with state superintendents and principals, and they came up with this. We're not doing well in the world. I mean, if we're not careful, the Googles and the PayPals are going to be invented somewhere else. I mean, it was interesting to see the Germans land in a spaceship over on the comet. I mean, I was like, that went, wow, why wasn't that here? So I do think we have to have good standards. In our state, we are saying that the curriculum that gets proposed by local school districts. There's parental advisors on this, and to me, I don't see that there's somehow that this is Obama core or some other kind of thing that I hear. I have looked at it carefully. My concern is with the PARCC test. Is that test a good test? We've delayed the impact of that test for a year. If it's a goofy test, we'll throw it out. But the idea that kids in Iowa and kids in California and kids in Ohio ought to be at a higher level of achievement, I'm completely for that. I think it makes sense. Now, if the federal government starts meddling in this, you start doing all this education policy out of Washington, I'm not for that. But as long as local school boards and parents are involved in writing the curriculum to reach a higher standard, particularly in math and in science, which we have in Ohio. We're not going to do history with some Common Core. I think it makes a lot of sense, and we're going to watch it, and we're going to watch the PARCC test.
It seems like Governor Walker, though, the way I watch Common Core, it's almost like the politicians. I feel like everybody's being too sensitive to the criticism. You get to a point. Look, on schools, we all take it very personally, but at some point we have to agree upon something. Right? Or no?
No.
Or am I wrong on that?
No. Well, I'll just offer a different opinion. First off, I want high standards. I want them set at the local and state level, which is why I oppose Common Core. And we're changing that. We've changed that and the process changing even more in the state of Wisconsin. Because I want high standards.
How do you measure your high standards, though, if you don't have a national standard? I'm just curious.
Well, our ACT scores have gone up since I've been governor. They're second best in the country. So we do have high standards. My graduation rates have gone up 4 years in a row. My third grade reading scores have gone up. All those things have gone up. I would say that the reason why we have schools in many parts of our states and many parts of this country that are failing is not because we don't have a high national standard. It's because we don't hold our schools accountable for what they're teaching today. And I would argue, no surprise from Wisconsin, one of the biggest reasons was because with collective bargaining in our public employee unions, in our schools, we treat good teachers and poor teachers exactly the same.
I got to, because I have a little bit of a different message here. Common Core, my understanding is it was the governors
45 governors
that were very concerned about the fact that we were not testing as well as students around the world in other countries, okay? And it was the governors who called state superintendents of education and principals to set a standard so that our children would have to leap higher and there wasn't going to be one student in one part of the country who could not do as well as somebody in another. This was nothing to do from what I understand. I wasn't a governor at the time. But these 45 governors through the National Governors Association said we need to have some standards. Now, in my state, we've got choice and teacher evaluations, and our third grade reading, got 96% of our kids doing well. I mean, all these things we're talking about. But in my state, now maybe this is different than in other states, but in my state, it is local school boards that develop the curriculum to meet the standards. There's nobody from Washington or in Columbus telling a local school district what the curriculum ought to be. It's purely local control. Now, this is what I looked at. Now, if there's information out there that somehow somebody else is setting the curriculum, I'd like to know about it because I don't have any complaints from anybody in my state that they're not able to set their own curriculum to meet a higher standard. My problem with PARCC is back to what Bobby was saying about, and maybe that test ought to go out, but higher standards for every kid in America with a process where local school districts set the curriculum to meet the higher standard. We have SATs and ACTs to measure people. That's a national test. So what I'm saying to you is maybe I didn't get the message from the governors, the 45 governors that came out with this, but they didn't have Arnie Duncan. They didn't have these people writing this. This was governors doing it, and that's what I thought we wanted. But I'm going to look at what these guys say, and if I have to go back and change, I'll be open enough to say, well, there's something I missed here.